Here we're going to talk about exponents, or also known as powers. And the important thing to note is, so when we're talking about exponents, we're talking about if you have a number and then there's a smaller number written up to the upper right of it, that's called the exponent. And what that means is this is called the base. So the big number is called the base. The little number that's raised up is called the power or the exponent. And what that means, what that exponent means, is how many times you're going to multiply the base times itself. So a lot of times people initially think that this means 6 times 4, and that's not what it means at all. It means 6 times 6 times 6 times 6. So 6 to the 4th means you're multiplying 6 times itself 4 times. 1, 2, 3, 4. So it's 6 times 6 times 6 times 6, which does not equal 24. In fact, it equals 1,296. If you have 5 to the second power, that doesn't mean 5 times 2, it means 5 times 5, because this is a 2, so you're going to write 5 2 times. So it's 5 times 5 is 25. And another important thing to remember is when you have a 2 up here, that also means squared. So you might get a question of, what is 5 squared? It might just be written out in words. And you have to know that squared means 2. So you have to know it's 5 to the second power, which means 5 times 5, which means 25. If you have a 3, 7 to the third power, again, that will be 7 times 7 times 7, 3 times, 1, 2, 3. That's going to equal 343. But when you have to the third power, that means cubed. So if you have a question of what is 7 cubed, that means 7 to the third power, which is 7 times 7 times 7, which equals 343. So those are really the only two special cases. A 2 means squared, a 3 means cubed. So if you see these words, cubed, you know it's to the third power. Squared means it's to the second power. Another two kind of special cases is anything raised to the 0 power. So let's say we had 9 to the 0. That always equals 1. Anything to the 0 power equals 1. So 3 to the 0 equals 1. 9 to the 0 equals 1. Whatever number you have, if it's raised to the 0 power, it equals 1. Anytime you have a number raised to the 1, raised to the first power, it's just that number. 25 to the 1 is 25. So anytime you have something to the 0, it equals 1. Anytime you have something to the first power, it equals 9. Now, one thing that they make easier on you is when you can use your calculator. There's two buttons. They're going to look something like x squared, and then there's going to be another button that has a little, it's like a mountaintop, or call it a carrot on it. And so watch the video on Facebook on how to use your calculator if you don't know, because they'll give you a calculator. It'll be online for the test. So if you have 3 squared and you need to figure out what that is, on your calculator you press the 3 button, and then you're going to press that squared button and then hit enter, and it'll give you the answer. So anytime you have something squared, you can just hit this button. Now if you have something to a power other than 2, you're going to use this button. So 6 to the 4th, you're going to type in the 6th, and then that caret symbol, and then the 4, and then enter, and that will give you the answer. So make sure you know how to use your calculator, because you don't actually have to physically write, 6 times 6 times 6 times 6 for 6 to the 4th, you can just write 6, that button, 4, enter, and get the answer. So make sure you know how to use your calculator. Another thing that we're going to talk about is negative exponents. So, if you have 2 to the 3rd, that's 2 times 2 times 2, which equals 8. But you might have 2 to the negative 3. And all that means is it's the reciprocal of 2 to the 3rd. So a negative 3 has nothing to do with negative numbers. It just means, how you can think of it is, what's 2 to the 3rd? Well, 2 to the 3rd is 8. So 2 to the negative 3 is the reciprocal of that. And if you know what reciprocal means, so an 8 is really 8 over 1. The reciprocal is when you flip them. So it's 1 over 8. So if you have a negative exponent, all you do is pretend that it's positive, find the answer, and then flip it upside down. So 3 to the negative 2, well, we know that 3 squared is 9, so 3 to the negative 2 is going to be 1 over 9. 6 to the negative 4th is going to be 1 over 1296, because we know 6 to the 4th is 1296. So if you have a negative exponent, it has nothing to do with negative numbers. It really just means to flip the answer. If you pretend that it's not negative, just flip that answer, and it's called the reciprocal.